4. Like the horseman.
The Horseman.
Oh, like the horseman. Oh, so
Horseman.
here I am, man. Your friendly neighborhood coach, trainer, wrestling school guy, promoter, booker, Big Paul Isadora. And I'm here with my my podcast partner over here, Mr. Primetime, Zach Reed. What's up, dude?
Oh, you know what, man? I got to throw it out here. Hold on real quick, Paul. We're starting this show out. Oh, God, I almost fell. Sorry, I'll be back in the camera soon. Just got to say it here because the topic we're on today, this is where is that? Right there. That's my 6-month chip in recovery, baby, right here. And Paul, I'm going to tell you right now, this recovery for me, these steps, it has been one hell of a story. So I think that's the lead in that we need
Nice, man.
right there.
Well, first of all, congratulations, man. It's I know that it is difficult, man, like to overcome things, right? So I have my parents were smokers for all of my life that I remember, right? And then I know that it just gets a hold of you, right? And I feel like I've never really had the quote unquote addiction, right? I remember like what I thought was um, something crazy, right? Coming back from playing overseas, um, I used to drink, I would drink Coca Cola, right? So I was in Bulgaria and I was drinking, they came in like, I want to say it was like 1.5 liter bottles, right? And I would drink multiples of that per day. And then I just remember when I got back to the States and, kind of got back into my regular routine, just drinking water, going to the gym. And I just remember feeling like just so like sick, right? And I just didn't know what was going on, like having headaches and just feeling weird, right? And I didn't know what that was. And so that's probably for me, that's my closest encounter with what I would look at as maybe something like an addiction, right? So kudos to you, man. It's like, I've been talking to you for, um, you know, a, at least this entire time you've been going to meetings and things like this, and it's just like a completely different person, right? So I've been around you for the last 15 or so years, right? And just thinking about kind of the ebbs and flows, right? Being able to be around you, having fun, drinking, as you say, getting blackout drunk, and then seeing this new you, like very clear thinking, and just I just feel like just a fountain of knowledge. Whether it's how to run a wrestling show, training, um, you know, a lot of different things. But a big, huge thing is we talk about storylines, man, and we've talked about that for the last couple episodes, right? We've kind of got a little bit of it while we're talking about when you get into the business, like what should your first match be, and we talked about kind of starting at the bottom, right? You get squashed, um, go around the loop, getting squashed every time, right? Next time you get a little something. And then the next time you go around the loop, you get a little something more, right? You're building to something, and eventually you're going to have, hopefully you build some sort of storyline around that, right? This guy's just getting the shit kicked out of him for month after month, and hopefully it kind of builds up till these fans start thinking like, man, I'd really like to see this guy get a win, or I want to start rooting for this guy because he's an underdog. And we talked about it last episode as well, like growing our business, right? And it revolved heavily with storyline, right? Getting people invested, getting people wanting to come and watch your product. And I think the main thing is that there's some sort of story that they're invested in. So, talk a little bit about that, man. Like how you're just like you're so like your mind just works like that. you're so focused on those storylines and laying things out for a long time to come.
Well, there's to me, and I think this is what's going to be interesting for us to talk about today in this 1 hour, actually less than 55 minutes now, is there is 6 parts to telling a great story, which, and you don't want your whole show to be story. You want one good, compelling story, and it can involve many other people, and there's many parts of the story. But the first thing we have to start with is a compelling plot with a conflict. So when we talk about that and we talk about a compelling plot with the conflict, we're talking about, okay, so I have to, and we go to the second part too, which I want you to talk about. But the second part of that compelling plot with the conflict is a well developed characters. So you were just mentioning, okay, you got the villain and you got the hero. So you have to develop the villain, and then you have to develop the hero. And once you have developed these guys enough, and we always bring it up, so it's the squash match. The squash match makes this, starts to introduce you to this villain and starts to slowly play out these characters that you're trying to develop. So once you've developed these characters, then you have to come up with that compelling plot, the conflict that's going to bring these two characters together. And I mean, just for an example, we were talking about at your show, we had a squash match, and even though the guy didn't show up that was supposed to do the run in after the squash match, it's a lot of guys, they just want to go out there and they want to go, all right, well, this is said guy, this is said villain, and we're just going to put him up against said baby face, hero. And they're not, they haven't developed any of these characters yet so that the fans give a shit about these guys. And then there's on top of not developing the characters, there's no plot. Some people call it a one-off, some people call it just firing through and burning a one night angle, whatever it is. But my question to you is, being in this business for a long time, what do you think, as in any examples for you of well-developed characters that started with a compelling plot that had a good conflict?
Well, I mean, I think about a lot of different things, right? I was talking to you a little bit earlier about um, Cowboy Cowboy Bob Orton was my, like, as a childhood scenario. Like, I just remember this guy, um, you know, breaking his arm. Right? That was what we were told. He's wearing a cast on his arm because he broke his arm. Right? So at some point, you're feeling some sort of um, you feel bad for the guy at first, but then you realize like that this guy is now using this injury um, as a way to get victories, right? And so you go from like, hey, you feel bad for the guy because he's got a broken body part and he's not going to be able to provide for his family. So he's going to be out there, he's going to try to wrestle with it, and you feel bad for him at first, and then you start seeing that he's using it as a weapon in order to get the winner's share of the purse, right? He's knocking people out or knocking people loopy to the point where he can get a cover, and then that feeds into a lot of different situations where now he's using that to beat your favorite wrestler, and so then you're starting to get pissed off about that. Like, man, I can't wait for my favorite wrestler Hulk Hogan to get some sort of revenge for losing a match because of this interference or whatever, with Cowboy Bob Orton, right? Coming in, hitting him on the, in the back with that. And then at some point, you kind of, when you've fed into that story for so long, you finally they give you what you're looking for, right? Orndorff is holding someone to get hit with that cast, and the baby face spins around and he hits the wrong guy, right? And then you're like, yeah, he finally got what he deserved. But I mean, in my mind, I can't remember exactly how long that storyline went on, but you read about it later, and you're like, this guy was wearing a cast for 18 months or something like that, something ridiculous. Um, but the way that the announcers put it over was very much like, this guy is trying to make a living, right? He's got a broken arm, but he can't stop wrestling because that's the way that he puts food on the table, right? So, and as a result, the broken arm just never heals, and
Yeah.
it's these guys are just putting it over in a big way. So that just it tells the story, and obviously that story went for a long time, before it's revealed that it was all never broke his arm, and the cast was all just just a work, right? So just was he was just using it as a spoof, and he was getting phony doctor's notes and all types of stuff like that. Just everything just fed into this story for so long. So that's I think that's that thing, man. It's like you feel a certain way, and then it heightens until finally the crowd gets they get that payoff, right? So you get that conflict, and then we're working towards that resolution. So
That's the key.
what type of
Satisfying
examples do you
resolution.
have of it? I mean, obviously, we're talking about that being a big part of the way that you put your shows together, and you're not just thinking about the show that's happening this month. You're talking about, or you're thinking about shows that are happening, 6 or 12 months down the road. That this show is just the foundation of building what you're going to eventually try to get to, you know, and maybe it doesn't have any set timeline. You just let it go until um, you run out of ideas for that specific situation. So,
Yeah.
um,
Or until the fans are ready for it. You don't have to give it to the fans right then, but I always go back, like I look at nowadays, the big storyline that I've been following is that bloodline storyline.
okay,
Like, oh man, do you when that thing started, it started during the pandemic. So this story actually starts when they're putting the screens up as fans and they're wrestling in empty buildings. And it started with Yeet. It started with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns is trying to boss his cousin around. And Jimmy's kind of the neutral guy, right? And you know, but what they're it's that Ula Fala. Like that thing's become bigger than a championship, even though Roman Reigns held that belt for God over 1,000 something days. But they develop these characters, right? And they're developing them. And then you said it earlier. There's relatable motivations. Those are the things that really drive these stories to go even deeper. Like something the fans can relate to. Some way the fans can get some sympathy behind the baby face, and they relate to him and go, "Oh man, I feel for that guy, man," because you got this prick right here who's always been the bigger star on the high school football team. He's always lifted more weights. He's always got more females. He's always made a little bit more money. He's always got a better position on a higher job. So when you're creating a villain and a baby face with your conflict, you got to look at the villain and you got to go, okay, what makes this villain a villain? Like what are some things that actually piss you off, like talking down or messing with children? That can be something that a villain would do. uh Being mean to women, pushing women around, verbally abusing women, cutting in cutting in front of line, or just cutting in front of the rankings to get a title shot when somebody else technically has more wins and losses than you, manipulating the system, the politics, like being mean to food servers, being mean to people, or people abusing their power. I mean, these are all things that create relatable situations for the villain of the character, which in turn, as the fan, makes you want to get behind whatever babyface, whatever hero's coming up, because you're like, man, I side with this guy. This guy isn't the better athlete. He isn't more over than this guy. He doesn't look better than this guy. He doesn't, his body isn't as good no matter how hard he works. So I think when you're building these storylines, I always go back to Me and You. It's a real simple one, because Bradley Rotten, rest his soul, Bradley Rotten, it was like Bobby Heenan and Hulk Hogan. Rotten, just his character hated Zach Primetime Reed, hated him. And he had tried everything in his power for years. He kept bringing people in. He does not like Zach Reed. He doesn't like the authority. He doesn't like the way he talks. He doesn't like the way he looks, the way the fans appeal to him. He didn't like none of that. And I just go back to that time, and I think we mentioned it in the last podcast. The way we introduced you was, I'm just in the ring one night, and me and Rotten are verbally going at it, and just out of nowhere, oh shit, here's this guy that's twice the size of Primetime, and he just shows up and choke slams this motherfucker 10 feet in the air and through the roof. And then Bradley Rotten comes in the ring, and they're like, who is this guy? And that's what makes the compelling story. I mean, think about Kane when we got hyped all that time, and then he comes out with the Undertaker, and all of a sudden he rips the door off the hinges, and the building's quiet, and now he's standing across Taker, and Taker's going, we never saw that. Undertaker made the sell on that, but like when you came in the ring and you choke slam me, that audience they didn't know who the fuck you were, but they saw that you're siding with this guy they don't like, and that you did this to the guy that they like the most. And from there, we're off. We can do whatever we want. And like you said, and I want you to talk about that a little bit, is that satisfying resolution, that resolution in the end. And a lot of people think 6 months, 9 months, oh, years too long, whatever. But you said it best, and I just want to get you to talk about it a little bit. Tell me why. Tell the people out there why you should not have a timeline, a set timeline on a story you're trying to tell.
I think it's just the thing about trying to get the fans involved, right? You want to see how long uh you can string this out, like you're talking about Me and You, right? How long can we string this out where I just come in and just ruin the day, for their hero, right? So I come in there and we do that, the choke slam right there, leave you laying, you know we take the belt or whatever, and we're celebrating, while you're just laying on the ground, and these fans just absolutely hate us for that, right? And then you come back to the next month, right? And then it's a contract signing, and they think, oh, the officials are going to keep the order and nothing's going to go wrong here, and then it ends up with you getting choke slammed through that table, right? So now we got a couple of months of these fans going, man, I hope Primetime gets back at this guy, right? Um, and it didn't end up as going as long as we wanted it to. There were some circumstances that kind of got in the way, but even with that short of a build, just the things that you would do online just to kind of to keep hyping that, and keeping it fresh in people's mind, where they were just like, man, yeah, you know what? I got to buy a ticket because I want to see Primetime kick this guy's ass, and so I want to see this happen. And then, I mean, we just watched that match just the other day, and and it's like it brings back those memories of just all the different things, just how slow that match went, and um, you know the whole I'm kicking the shit out of you for the whole time, and then you just catch me off guard by I'm coming back into the ring, not even thinking about how this is going to happen, and you kick the ropes into my nuts, right? And then it's just like you know th- and then if that wasn't enough, right, the fans are like cheering for that, and then you go over and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna start jerking this rope up and down, man, just you know um you talked about like the heelish things that people do, and all of the dastardly things that I did to you. The fans are just looking at this and going, yeah, yeah, this guy, he fucking deserves this, man. you know just just lay into him, hurt him, right? So it goes into that, and then that's just like I just can't muster up the power to do what I want to do, because man, if anybody's ever got kicked in the nuts, man, you just know it's like that first original thing, like, oh shit, I got kicked in the nuts, and then all of a sudden it's like that pain just radiates through your body. You just start getting sick to your stomach and all those things. And so I think how slowly that built from that situation to what we were going to. um the fans can be like, oh yeah, yeah, I've got kicked in the nuts before. Like, I know what that feels like. And so if you're doing something that's relatable like that, um, I think the fans can buy into it just that much more. And then finally, when the finish happens, when you hit me with the super kick and I fall off the apron and to a table that just happened to be sitting there. The announcers just scatter, and I fall through this table and can't answer the 10 count and get counted out. So just you think about from the very beginning of that, how it's like, the beloved character, and then this dastardly villain coming in, and ruining the day. And the fans can never go home happy, right? Because, the villain decimated their favorite character. And then, getting to the culmination of what's going to happen. But, you and I had talked about how that could have went 6, 8, 10, 12, so many more months, right? We could have strung that thing out. It could have went from, a double count out, where you're just building this, like, what, yeah, so something happened. Primetime got something accomplished, but he's never pinned this guy, right? Maybe he wins via count out. Um, Double count out, whatever it is, just qualification. But this guy never beats this guy decisively, right? So you could string that out for a very long time based off of the fans being into it, right? That you come back the next time and they're into it, right? And
Yeah.
you can you can go away from the story but still have a little bit of tie-in, right? And then you can string that thing out for, like you made the Roman Reigns reference. I mean, it's just like you think about when people thought, oh, they're gonna switch the belt, right? And then they didn't. And then it's like, oh, well, this is the time they're gonna do it. And then they didn't. Um, how that just continued on for so long, because they knew the fans were still invested, right? So just crazy. But um let's talk about things that are a little bit more local, man. I know that we've been discussing things kind of in the local scene that you can see, just like a kind of a tailor-made storyline, that could be happening but just isn't happening. So talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I see it all the time. I was really like, I was in a trance because I was thinking about, I just did it to a guy, and I've seen a couple other guys do it. Someone sent me a match and I saw it in the match too, but it's like, dude, you're kicking an 1/8 inch cable rope or even manila hemp rope full force into some guy's fucking nuts. It's like, what's the capital of Thailand? Bangkok. You hit him in the nuts, man. You barely touch my nuts, man. They go up into my throat. I'm in pain. So you kick a damn 1/8 inch cable rope with wrapped in a hard fucking garden hose or whatever into my dick. I'm gonna sell that. That's the turnaround. I might not recover, excuse me, from that shot to the nuts. If you run my head into that fucking 10-ton pole sitting over there on the frame, I I might not recover from that in this match. That's enough to change the complexion of the story in this contest. But when we're talking about characters and stuff, like I know I was looking at next level. I was watching Next Level, and I know I've met the guys, but I think the rarest thing you can find in any sport is a actually an active father and son team, right? So it's like you had Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. Sr. hung around a little while just so he could play with his kid in the game. It was kind of like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. Now you got LeBron James and little Bronny James. And this was a really big deal that LeBron still at this age is playing a high level game of basketball that he could actually play a couple years with his son. And I was watching, you know, and I think I saw that they actually turned him on his dad. But when I was watching the story, I was watching the Swole father. I was watching Swole father and his son as a team, and I started thinking, man, I was like, man, the dad. My first thought was because we were reviewing a match that you just picked, and I was like, God, here's this man, this amazing, just right in front of you rarity. You got the dad who's in still not too old, in great shape, and the son's really athletic, and he sells well, and they have it. And on top of that, they have this amazing backstory of the abandonment issue of like he went away and he didn't get to see his kid for all these years, and then and you get to see this online. But like, to make the long story short is like you have this, just using that as an example, you have this father-son team that have an incredible backstory, and you could put the tag team championships on these guys with that amazing backstory for your television show, and you could just run these guys for however long you want, as long as the fans like it, that these guys just keep overcoming heels and they become the biggest baby faces in the company, and then they lose the belts, and then there's a conflict then they have a conflict, and then they make a resolution and they get back together and they go after the belts, and the kid's selling, and the kid wants the hot tag, and the dad's taking the heat, and then instead of making that tag like Owen and Brett versus the Quebecers at the Royal Rumble, he turns around, last ditch effort, and they lose, and then the kid turns on the dad, and the abandonment of all those years comes into play, and I think they're playing a little off that right now, but I like to use that as an example locally, because it's like, dude, you got a father and son tag team, and the father's in great shape and can still go, and the kid is 18, 19 years of age, and they came back together through wrestling, and it's such a great story. So there's just a lot of places that I look at and I go, man, there are some potential compelling stories and conflicts, and just taking the time to develop the character. When you do that, you think at first, so many companies are just trying to produce content, and I know I hear it come out of your mouth all the time, and we talk about quality over quantity, and I see so much where everybody's just putting out quantity, and there's not a lot of quality. But the thing is, those things go together. Quantity and quality go together like peanut butter and jelly, man. Like, you can actually have quantity, and that quantity can be quality. I take it back to, we talked about earlier in the show, in my recovery, I can go back to many, many nights of being drunk that my quantity over quality of women that I left with, it was good quantity, but the quality wasn't there. And I always look back at it and said, man, you could have had both. You know what I mean? Like you can actually have both in this. Because I think when we get to the story, we also realize one thing: a rivalry, wins and losses. The rivalry makes a good story. Too many times I see this guy's the champion. Now this guy's going to be the champion, and then this guy's going to be the champion. It's like you can flip those belts around a little bit. This guy can be the champion and he can lose to this guy. And then this guy that was the champion can beat him back for the belt, and then he can beat him back for the belt because it's believable competition. And over time, switching those belts around a little bit actually creates a rivalry, which in turn makes a story.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you're talking about that as far as, and I think we've had this conversation. It's like you think about like UFC, where you've had some people that, have gone back and forth beating each other, and it's like, that's reality right there. You have two guys that are equally matched. It makes perfect sense that one guy can get the better of the other guy and vice versa. Like it just makes perfect sense. But people are so hesitant to do that, or they think, oh, the fans are gonna shit on it or whatever, or somebody else is gonna talk trash about it, or whatever the situation is. But you hear so many times that happens, and people are like, oh, I can't believe they switched the belt and blah blah blah. And it's like, you know if you really think these guys are equally matched, then it makes perfect sense that could happen. So so I don't understand the argument of like, oh, you're switching the belt too much or whatever. Because in reality, if you have two equally matched guys, that is a realistic situation that can happen. Um, but let's jump back into this will tie into both things: the quantity of matches that people want to have, and how that maybe would hold them back from telling a really good story. We've seen over the last couple months, like you see people throwing fireballs, right? And in my mind, I'm thinking, Sandman gets a lit cigarette put in his eye, right? And that puts him out of action for months at a time, right? So, but it was because he was willing to kayfabe that enough where he would, you know, he can't see, he can't wrestle. If he's going to go out in public, he's going to be wrapped up. He's going to have somebody, you know, chauffeuring him around. But because he can't see, right? He got a cigarette in his eye, and but we've been seeing fireball things recently. Um, so do you think it's that fear, like, hey, I want to be able to wrestle every month, or I want to be able to wrestle this many times every month, that would kind of maybe turn people away from doing something like that, some sort of injury storyline, uh, that people would go, I don't want to do that because I've got 3 other dates this month that I need to make, and I don't want to make your product look bad because they see me pop up somewhere else. I think you could easily do that, back in the day where there was territories, and something had happened in a territory, and then somebody just leave that territory and go somewhere else and work. And, you could tell the story in the territory that they got hurt in, that they're on the shelf, right? They're not wrestling anymore because they're injured. Um, do you think because of the way that the internet and how easily people can get this information, and I think in our situation with Northern California, especially with so many promotions running and so many guys using the exact same talent as the promotion down the road, Like, is that the deterrent from people wanting to do these long-term storylines, especially involving somebody getting hurt? Do you think that's that case?
Oh, 100%. You can't really everybody's friends with everybody. Everybody has the same mutual friends. I could pretty much go look at another wrestler on Facebook, and we're gonna have around the same mutual friends, give or take, plus minus on that. That comes into effect. Sometimes it's just people don't know, and they don't have the experience, or they've never done the idea of running a story. They've never ran a program, and some of the talent's too young to know what a real program is and how to generate an audience and increase your fan base off of the program itself. And everything's so rushed nowadays with the attention span and all that. And I just think that what we were talking about earlier, it's like, okay, the fans know that they're friends with these guys. There's people that put stuff up, and people say kayfabe is dead, but when you're running your own promotion, whether there's guys going, we have to remember at the end of the day one thing: we know that this is not real. And I know that when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, my back doesn't hurt or the injuries, this and that. We know that these fans are suspending their belief with the story. So if you're running a promotion, it doesn't matter if somebody is wrestling somewhere else on the weekend and your 250 mutual fans go, well, how is his eye really burnt if he's going to be wrestling next weekend? But then this promotion is selling it like his eye is really hurt. Well, I'm going to tell you guys something. 250 mutual friends that might see that on Facebook, or Instagram or TikTok or whatever the fuck ever. Who gives a shit? Because they're not drawing those 250 fans to the show, or they might not even be getting 250 views on this shit. So go ahead, man, in your area and what you're doing, just stick to it. Just go for it. See it out. Because a lot of times, if you're not a lot of times, but if you're drawing a crowd in a town, a good fan base is not going to be a fan base that you're talking to on Messenger, or that you're texting, or that they're commenting on your fucking post and you're commenting right back with them. You know what I mean? Like, commenting to the fans to me is just like, who gives a shit? Like, why are you commenting to this fan? Let that fan post. There's too many wrestlers that are commenting back and forth to each other. And hey, it's your social media. Do with as you want. I don't personally give a shit. I like to watch it. I like to sit down and take a shit and read all that stuff in the morning, or lay down in my bed at night and just aimlessly read all this great stuff. And that's fine. And if you want to do that, but the response should not be from the performer himself. If a fan or somebody comes in and goes, hey, this guy's an asshole, this guy's a fucking this or that or whatever, or this guy's a dick, or blah 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 blah, who cares, man? Just go on with the story, do what you got to do. So I think too much of, when people do try to tell a story, we allow the audience to, or the fans or the friends, which it's become social media now, we get too engaged by what everybody else is saying online, when we have to realize, who gives a shit what somebody's saying online. I mean, when I post on my social media platform, it's check out Limelight on the YouTube. Here's Primetime University. Here's a video. Here's the next show. Here's the promotion. Here's the flyer. Here's where to get tickets. I'll promote the show if I'm going to be on another show. Even if a fan comments and says, "Hey man, I read that. I seen the flyer. What time does the show start?" Do you know how bad I want to go, "Hey fuck nuts, It's right there on the flyer. How do I get tickets? Hey shithead, it's right there on the fucking flyer. You saw it, you didn't read it. You saw it enough to make a comment. You saw it enough to bug me at 9 o'clock at night by calling the fucking phone number. So it just comes down to definite instant gratification. And what I mean by instant gratification is social media has become this platform where, oh, guess where I ate for breakfast? I ate at Denny's. Well, you know who knows if I ate at Denny's? You might know if I ate at Denny's because I talked to you. I might have said I ate at Denny's, but I'm not going to fucking go online and post that I ate at Denny's. And I sure the fuck ain't going to go on my fucking Facebook page and go, it says right there's a picture of me as a professional wrestler. It says I'm a professional wrestler. It says who I'm associated with. And I'm going to go on there and make a post going, oh, man, my car's broke down. I got no money to make this. Just got a job at Target. Why would you say that? And to most young performers or people seeking the attention, they go, oh, I said that because it's my Facebook. It's my social media platform. I get that. Okay. I get that. But when you're trying to tell a story, when you're trying to sell something, wouldn't it be easier if we're over here at West Coast Pro or Pro Wrestling or wherever, we're at one of the wrestling companies, and a dude gets hit with a steel chair in the head, and we got the CTE fucking concussion angle, and we're playing like he's hurt, right? Well, even if said dude shows up at other promotion and the same fan base can see it, let's not deviate. Let's not deviate away from this. If the fans go, hey, well, he's supposed to have a concussion or his his retinals are supposed to be burnt, but he's wrestling over here. Let's just let them think that they're smart. Let's let them make their comments because the more they comment and the more we don't respond to their shit, the more interested they're going to be and the more views we're going to get. And they're just going to start to really go and they're going to try to find it out. They're going to go, hey, man, let's try to get a hold of Big Paul and find out if this guy's really hurt. Let's get a hold of Zach and see if why this guy's working in Reno, but he's also working in here when his fucking asshole is supposed to be imploded from the ring post. And it's your job not to say shit. And it's my job not to say shit. And the problem is people just go, that was cool for the night. That was cool for the night to play that angle, but we're not going to stick with it. So, what was that one that Journey, that Journey heat that he was getting, which I heard how it started. He told me, but when that heat got started, I was just interested in the fact of like when I was reading the thing, I bought into it a little bit at the start. I was like, what the fuck? And then I went to my phone and I'm like, well, they said this guy went missing on this day, but 4 days later, me and him were talking on Messenger. You know what I mean? So I had to call up the talent and go, hey man, I know there's an angle running. Does that mean that maybe you might no show my show? You know what I mean? Because if so, tell me now. And if you're running an angle and this is your angle that in your story that you think that you're gonna draw the crowd on and make money, that's cool. If you miss my show, just let me know in advance. Don't flake me at the last minute or not talk to me. Bring me in on the loop, man. I'll keep the respect with it. I'll even take you off my card if that's what you're gonna do. So, I mean, we as promoters here and in NorCal, we talk about how we're trying to have each other's backs. Well, I mean, if you're going to run a fucking angle and people are using the same talent, go ahead and give that promoter a call. We know him anyways. So that promoter gives us a call and says, hey, man, I'm running this angle with this guy, man. Do you think we could fade it in your promotion too? And there's a good chance, man, that we're going to go, yeah, no problem. Because that's really, I want this company to draw well. I want them to do good. and I would hope that they would want to see me do good in my area too. So yeah, I'd fucking work with somebody if they had a tight, if I had somebody booked on my show and somebody was running a really tight angle like that, as long as they said, hey, we're going to be doing this and this guy's also on your card, can we protect this? I'm going to be like, sure, let's fucking protect it.
Of course, yeah, and why would you not? Right? That's just that could be a storyline that you're not even thinking about doing that you can keep alive, and it can be a small storyline in your promotion as well, right? So it doesn't have to necessarily be like, oh, this is something I came up with and I'm going to be doing it, but hey, I'll run with it because to try to protect your the storyline that you got running at your spot. So yeah, it's I feel like it's crazy that we wouldn't do that for each other. Um, when like you said, we are all, we all share the common friend group. I've always talked about um pro wrestling as a family, right? Like it's we go out and we risk our safety and put our safety in somebody else's hands as a collective group, right? As pro wrestlers, that's something that we're gonna do. Like we've kind of that's an understanding that you have coming into the building or into the business that you're going to you're going to protect the people that you're in the ring with and do what you can as far as that's concerned. Like why would we not do the same with the storylines that somebody else is running and try to help them further that moving forward. So you talked about trying to do that within, just don't talk about it, right? If it's something that's happening in your promotion, you're going to let that thing happen in your promotion, and if that character is doing something else in a different promotion, um you know we just let the fans kind of think what they want and draw their own conclusions. But what if that happens within the same promotion? What if somebody gets hurt on a show and the next show they're showing no signs of that? We talk about that generally um, in the course of a match, right? We go, hey, you just got dropped on your head, but the next time you're on the offensive, nobody can tell that you took any damage, right? So, um, we normally focused on that on a during the course of a single match type of situation. But what do you think about that? If you're trying to do something within your own promotion, um, should you keep that type of thing going on? Like, let's say somebody accidentally fell out of the ring and, splatted on the floor or whatever. And, you know, they use that within their finish. I mean, we've talked about how try to call a match in the back and anticipate what the fans are going to think and believe and where they're going to be up and where they're going to be down. But let's just say we're doing the right thing and somebody takes a tumble that they're not supposed to take and we just work that straight into the match that we're having. How important do you think that is to continue that the next time that you have a show? I feel like most of these companies they're running on a monthly basis. Some companies are running every couple weeks. So how important do you think that is the next time those fans of your own promotion see that guy that just got hurt on the last show? How important is that for you to continue that storyline or somehow cover it up or relate back to it, something like that? So how important is that to kind of continue that within your own promotion if something happens on a previous show?
It's the most important thing. I mean, that's all we need to say about it. It's the most important thing. The problem with a lot of stuff that goes on is that it's not being told to the guy, or maybe a promotion's running in the same venue and they're generating the same audience and there's no room for growth, so they're not as willing to pay attention to the detail. But I mean, it goes back like social. People say kayfabe is dead. Man, we have this amazing tool called YouTube and streaming apps and the ability to do podcasts if we want. And editing is so much easier now. Everybody, there's so many different editors and there's so many platforms. We should be able to kayfabe even harder right now. Like these 250 mutual friends, those 250 mutual friends those fans should not know what the fuck is going on. They just shouldn't know. There's so many ways that we can tell these stories now with technology, with like we're running this podcast right now, man. I mean, back in the day, we would have had to go out and we would have literally had to buy the cameras. We would have had to buy the sound equipment and the setup and the whole nine. We would have had to film it. We would have had to send this over, get everything chopped up and edited just to put it out there. We don't have to do that anymore because of the ability of this technology. So when somebody just doesn't sell something, when somebody just doesn't get how to execute the story, they don't have the experience, or someone without the experience hasn't sat them down and shown them how to do it. I mean, I used to go hard in the ring, man. And then I realized, like, dude, one day, and that day has arrived, my back hurts, my neck hurts, my knees are bad. I can't jump as high as I once was. I can't leapfrog and drop kick like I used to. When I do a moonsault now, if I do it onto somebody, I'll blow my fucking knee out. You know what I mean? I know I risk the chance of blowing my knee out. So years ago, I decided, hey man, there's gonna come a time where you can't do this shit anymore. And you can do it, but you can't do this shit anymore. You can't do all that risky stuff. You're not gonna be able to jump like you used to be able to. So you have to start learning how to work. You have to start learning how to protect yourself. And I remember that last show we were at with you, we were wrestling these two new guys, brothers. And I said, hey, what do you guys do? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, as a team, what do you guys do? And they're like, oh, we tag in and out a lot. And, no offense, but I was like, fuck, man. So you guys do what tag team wrestlers are supposed to do. Tag in and out. Okay, gotcha. But what the fuck do you do? And they were like, well, we do this one where you come off the ropes and we boost you over like a leapfrog. And this guy catches you with a inverted atomic drop. And then you back up into me and I hit you with a atomic drop. And then the other guy goes, and then I come off the rope and I tackle you. And I go, cool. I said, when you do that and you tackle me, I'll feed to the rope and you put me over and we'll go to the floor. And then you guys get blah, 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 blah. We'll come in and behind you. And then I said, what else do you do? And he goes, we do this huge double spine buster. And I go, okay. I go, well, Christian, I said, my partner will do that, right? Like he'll take that. So now I've gotten myself out of the mud. I've gotten myself out of the mess. I'm like, I am not going to do that move. I am not going to go up and splatter my brains on the ground and land on my back and take a high school boy bump from that high at 43. I'm not going to do it. I'll take that other shit like a money all day long. I'll even take that tackle bump for you. But so now I've taken myself out of the mess of taking this bump and it's on my partner. So now it's up to my partner when he talks to them to go yes or no. And that's the smart part about what can get a wrestler going a deeper into this. Like at 43, and I know what you're 49.
Yep.
Can we still go? Fuck yeah, we can still go. We can go better than we could at the other age because now we go. No, nope. Oh, there's that many people in the crowd. Hey, it's going to be one less bump for you tonight because there's only this many people in the crowd. And when these guys are telling these stories and doing this stuff, it's hard to get the story over because to get a story over, you have to get audience participation to develop your character, to get the crowd behind you to say, I'm a good guy, a bad guy. If they're not willing to do that, if they're not willing to work the crowd, or they're so hyper focused on what they have to remember and do, they're not going to be able to tell the story because they can't execute the story because they're not in the moment of what the story is really supposed to be about. The story you're telling has to have that crowd participation to dictate the moments and create those memories. And Paul, talking about fucking storylines, we are almost at the 55-minute mark. I'm telling you, brother, this thing's gonna progress. Well, close us out here, man. Close us
Oh,
out.
absolutely, man. So it's been this is something that we talk about. I feel like ad nauseum about storytelling, and I feel like just I've learned so much in the past couple months just about storytelling in general, and trying to string these things out. We talked about how some people um, will refuse to do a storyline because of, oh, well, I want to get my 8 to 10 minutes. So, unfortunately, we, the whole idea of this podcast was just try to get, kind of give our spin on things, and hopefully to open some eyes and make people go, you know what? I'm probably not doing as good of a job as I could be doing. Um, and I could, gosh, man, I can't, you know, think about how many times Mustafa told us less is more. And, at the time you have no idea what he's talking about. You just shake your head and you go, yeah, that's understood, man. I got it. Yeah, less is more. And then we get older like this and we go, man, less is more, because, I can take an atomic drop and I can sell the shit out of it for, you know, 45 seconds or a minute or whatever. Because a lot of people have landed on their tailbone and they know how much of a stinger that is. And they go, man, if I landed on somebody bone on bone, man, it's gonna hurt quite a bit. And I can make people believe that hurt me for quite a while. So, we've definitely bought into the less is more um, way of thinking, and trying to stretch these storylines, whether it's within a match or within a company, and stretching it out over a number of months or a year or whatever. That's what we're trying to do, and hopefully we'll get across to some people and maybe change their way of thinking a little bit, as far as, I think I do want to try to get something established long term, where fans can get invested and really enjoy and look forward to what I'm doing the next month, and in turn draw a bigger crowd and get a little bit more money on my envelope as well. So, uh,
100%. And hit the Googler. Hit the Googler, because the Googler will tell you. That's what I was saying earlier. So let's leave you on this note right here, fans out there in wrestling land. One, a compelling plot with the conflict. Two, well-developed characters. Three, relatable motivations, a setting, a clear theme, and most importantly, a satisfying resolution when the time is absolutely right. And Paul, we never said we know everything, but we know a little bit. And I know this, that if you're wasting your time sitting on Facebook, Instagram, and the TikToker and the Twitter and the Twacker, and sitting there with the weed whacker doing whatever you do, if you're spending more time on social media telling everybody how great you are or how shitty your fucking life is, spend a little bit more time in the gym, spend a little bit more time sitting around training, maybe, and also spend a little more time talking to your actual buddies on the phone about what you could possibly do. Go talk to some promoters about what you could possibly do to tell some stories. In closing, the one thing that I see, Shane Dynasty, I call him Shane Dynasty, and I like Shane a lot, but I always see Shane online, and Shane is continually making posts trying to smarten people up about the business. and it's a good read. And and we see the big ugly. We see Gabe all the time going online and making vlogs and stuff like that, telling people opinions about stuff like this too. So I can't wait to get some of those guys on here for a few minutes and talk about this topic, not their life stories. The topic is storylines.
Sounds good, man. Well, Paul Zadora and Mr. Primetime, you know what we're doing? We're going over.